Tonight on the Guy at the Movies podcast with Joe and Sean. With Joe and Sean, it is Oscar nominations time, and we have all of the hot reactions that you're waiting for, as well as some Razzie Awards to talk about and some other news that we're going to jump into. Also, Moonfall was kind of the pits. We'll dive into it in just a few minutes here on the Guy at the Movies podcast with Joe and Sean.
Change the game just now. I have a rave.
These are the best ideas I've ever heard.
I'm saying that's the commentary that will exist.
A Barbie girl in a Barbie world.
Defiled Mickey Mouse.
Oh my god!
Welcome to the Guy at the Movies podcast with Joe and Sean. I am Joe, he is Sean, and this is episode 83 of this esteemed production. Sean, how are you doing?
Oh, you can tell how I'm doing. Take a look at me. I accidentally shaved my beard off.
I was wondering what happened there.
My apologies to those that are listening, but I had a great big bushy beard, and Sam wanted me to lightly trim it because she's a fan of the beard as well. But I decided to be stubborn and accidentally with far too close of a setting. Not checking that setting though, just taking off a part of the face and then realizing, whoop, I got to go all the way on this one. So that happened.
You certainly went all the way with that.
I now had to go a little bit with the haircut as well. So now I'm just like a well-groomed member of society.
I'm trying to think who you look like right now.
Anything with a lot of chins.
It snubbed Denis Villeneuve, whatever his name is.
I'd love to. That would be lovely to hear that one, without a doubt.
You're like, I'll take it. Well, tonight's a big podcast for us because, of course, we are diving into your wheelhouse with the Oscar nomination reactions. We're about a month and a half out from the actual Oscars telecast. But we'll jump into all of our thoughts there. But before then, we're going to watch a new trailer for the movie Lightyear, which, of course, is the, oh my gosh, how do we even describe this? It's the quote unquote true story and inspiration for Buzz Lightyear. That's also a Pixar movie.
I've talked about this to you on numerous occasions. It makes complete sense. It's, obviously Andy had a toy named Buzz Lightyear. That Buzz Lightyear is based off of this space hero, this space ranger. So in the world of Toy Story, there is this type of fictional space travel. I mean, it just makes perfect sense to me.
I just feel like there's going to be some areas that don't make sense, and I'm here to call them out. So here is the first full trailer for Lightyear that we have gotten. It is weirdly shaped on this YouTube delivery, so I apologize for that, but here we go.
A year of work for a 4-minute flight. Isn't that something?
We're all ready if you are, sir.
Well, let's go find out if this...
We got a breach in the perimeter.
Thank you. Buzz Lightyear mission log. After a full year of being marooned on this planet, our first test flight is a go. Let's get everyone home.
Good luck, Captain. We're all counting on you.
Roger that.
There's a star waiting in the sky.
Hello, Buzz. I am Socks, your personal companion robot.
We'd like to come and
We're being pursued by just a massive robot.
waiting in the sky.
That was utterly terrifying, and I regret having joined you.
Buzz. Let all the children begin.
I can provide sleep sounds if you like. I have several options. Summer night, ocean paradise, whale calls.
No. White noise is fine.
Very well.
Good night, Socks.
Good night, Buzz.
All right, Sean. First reactions.
It's interesting because it does sort of scream formulaic. I mean, he goes on this planet. Some sort of peril is happening with aliens or robots. One of those is in trouble. The other one he's trying to save. I can see he's going outside of authority at one point. And there's a fun little humorous robot to guide him. I mean, this interests me. I mean, Buzz Lightyear is one of my heroes, so I'm in on this. He is, granted, there should be other ones out there like Rosa Parks or Abraham Lincoln, but like Buzz Lightyear really is one of the ones that like truly has shaped my childhood, and for that, that I will, crawl myself over. But this does seem like a strange setting to it. It's slightly different. It seems like gritty, as much as a gritty children's Pixar film could be in terms of its not delivery, but the atmosphere that you have in it. And I mean, I'm sort of, on one hand, I'm all for that. On the other hand, it doesn't like scream something that I'm that excited for.
I feel like I'm missing something. Like there's not the wow factor of what they're actually trying to do. What's the actual plot of the story besides there's Zorg going after them and who's the big robot or whatnot, and a team of rangers that are trying to do something. They don't necessarily tell us that. Of course, that cat thing is there to sell toys. Let's be honest, and probably will sell a lot of them. But I don't know. I'm missing something, and I was expecting a little bit more. When that trailer ended, I was surprised because I didn't get I guess the intent behind the story. What's the story they're telling? Besides it being the origin story for Buzz Lightyear and how he became so well renowned. I don't know. We'll see.
I didn't even realize it was an origin story. So, But,
well, it's an origin story, right? If it's the story of Buzz Lightyear, it's an origin story.
Yeah,
because
I guess. I mean, I didn't know
Buzz
if it was
Lightyear
just one of his other like chapters in his adventures, or it could be his origin. Yeah.
Or it's a multiverse Buzz Lightyear.
Well, that too. Yeah, I mean, this just goes back to the Pixar versus Disney animation situation where, why does Disney just hate Pixar and they're, dumb? Granted, this is originally a Pixar property, so that's why Pixar has this one. But they're getting the recycled stuff, like these sequels of, Cars and stuff like that. And the original stories are going to Disney animation. And I think this might be part of that. But once again, with the caveat that this started as a Pixar property anyway, and so should be along the Pixar track.
Well, the good news is it will probably hit Disney Plus, given that Disney hates Pixar right now and sends everything that way. So June 12th, I believe it is, 2022. Get ready for that.
That actually will definitely, they'll manufacture a variant. Disney will cause a variant so that they have to put that on Disney Plus.
It's too hot. Go to Disney Plus. Or the moon will fall, which gets us to what we've been watching. And we just saw Moonfall. I was about to say epic, and epic failure might be the way to put it.
Yeah.
So I was tight-lipped on this last time that we were on the pod. I had seen this the prior week. And I was thinking maybe this is a movie that will improve in my thoughts as I sit on it a little bit longer. I am here to tell you that it did not. So I love a good disaster movie. I love stupid movies. I love, anything that just has that wow factor and that excitement factor. And that's what a lot of the Roland Emmerich films will give you. You get 2012, you get Independence Day, you get The Day After Tomorrow. They're all a lot of fun. I think partly because they're grounded in things that we're led to believe could actually happen. Right. So like climate change or, the Mayan calendar, which we're threatened with every few years. Like, no, just kidding. It's next year was when everything's going to end. And even with Independence Day, right? Like we've always had a fascination with aliens. You know what we haven't had a fascination with? What's going to happen when the moon falls into the earth? And here's the thing. In my opinion, this could have been a really good movie. It could have been... if they would have stuck with the idea that the moon fell out of orbit and we had to figure out what to do, I would have been all for that. It kind of would lean into more of like an Armageddon type thing at that point. But I do think that would have been a better movie than what we got because, spoiler alert, there's an alien AI piece behind all this where the moon is not really the moon. And it's a engine for life creation that AI that we created or our ancestors created millennia ago is trying to destroy so that they destroy all life in the universe. Did I get that right?
I don't know how you could possibly get it right. And that's how I truly believe it. Like, there were several times where I tried to explain to myself the ending of this film, and I tied my feeble brain into pretzel knots trying to figure out how the logic or how it could logically make any sort of sense. And I really did lose a lot, which is, like you said with Roland Emmerich, the object of these are the enemies. They got to be simple. Funny looking aliens trying to kill us. Jason Isaacs with a spear killing Heath Ledger. You got like any sort of like, just any like.
Oh, the Patriot. I forgot about that.
He did so good in The Patriot.
Wait, that was the Patriot. He did the Patriot.
He did The Patriot.
Oh, I love the Patriot.
Yeah, dude, The Patriot's great, man. It's such a weird, different path for him, but yeah, he did like it was just nutty.
Wow.
So like it's the battlefield moments where are the only ones that like you really get his sort of perspective. Even in those, it's about being simple with this, and you bring in a third act reveal that you could try to spoil it. I could try to spoil it. I couldn't fathom it. All right. Charlie Plummer had a hard time spoiling it, but maybe that was because he just droned on for a while and nobody knew what he was talking about. We look at these like 8 different families that were had in this, and all of the 8 different families, we were trying to like care about them and put them in peril. And mainly that's because, in this situation, this was a China collab. And so there were characters there that were truly focused on for a while that were like, why is this? Oh, this is why. There'd be a Chinese actress like focused on for a little while. That character has no business really being there, but is brought in and kind of ham-fisted in. And it's because of that sort of collaboration. The most egregious might be 2 times. There were 2 times where SpaceX was mentioned. And right after SpaceX was mentioned, John Bradley's character said, "I love Elon Musk." I mean, to the point where it was scary, where like, it was just very, very strange. He makes up for it by naming his cat Fuzz Aldrin, probably the one great moment of the film. The other great moment is Patrick Wilson trying to escape from the moon, a sentence I never thought I'd say. And what was great about that, though, there was this beautiful score, and the guns started to go right with the score. And for a moment, I said, okay, this is cinema. And then it just got bad again. But like for that very quick moment, I was like, okay, I'm liking this for a second. But all in all, this just really, it lacked any sort of simplicity that I was hoping for, that you need from this kind of level. Or if you're going to put some depth into it, you need to have the stakes. Now, we know the stakes are moon is crashing to Earth. Okay. However, there needs to be specific stakes at certain moments. I think there was actually some decent technicals, some decent visual effects. When the water came in and started wiping out the city, I was like, hey, that's great, but this is just all of a sudden happening. Like there was no like real like moments of danger before that. And so because of that, I kind of didn't care that the water was wiping out the city. You need to start to like, build that first. And that was some of the stuff that got to me.
It feels like there were a lot of different ideas that were thrown together at the last minute, right? Like, I don't necessarily understand why we had to go down the route of the aliens and why we had to justify it that way. Like, have something slam into the moon. I don't know, like something happened when we landed on the moon back in the 60s and we left it there and it detonated and now the moon's off course or something like that. To go back to this AI thing, which was really frustratingly unoriginal, especially in look, like the whole, like, I don't know, like swarming AI thing just didn't do it for me. I was frustrated with that. I think I had told you that during the final act, I said, what the fuck or shut the fuck up like 17,000 times. as well as Jesus Christ. And then the one that got me when I was like, I'm done, was Halle Berry's son in the movie runs up to her at the end when it's sort of like the scene. Think about the scene from the end of Independence Day when like Will Smith and Jeff Goldblum come back down and they're like, all's good, they all won. Well, Halle Berry and Patrick Wilson are there, and Halle Berry's son runs up and goes, "We didn't make it to Dad," and her response is, "That's okay." And the dad was just obliterated by pieces of the moon minutes before. Like, it's okay, he's dead, it's fine. I was like, what are we doing here?
At least in the end of Dante's Peak, when like a friend was killed like during the volcano eruption, and it's just like Smith didn't make it, and then another friend goes, "At least he got to see the show." That's someone.
Well, and like that's a funny way to address it, right? Like, it's ridiculous, but it's a funny line. Here, she's still like, meh.
I'm still.
She's like, yes, custody.
Oh my god! I still have quite a few issues with the fact that Patrick Wilson's son was named Sonny. That might be the ultimate placeholder.
Oh my god!
Characters' names were not the strong suit there.
The other problem I had was with how ridiculous certain aspects that were supposed to be throwaway scenes came across. So, like, when the two people that were helping them with their mission prior to them being like, "We got to go now." In like 5 minutes, we got to launch in 5 minutes. Okay, cool. They like went out to the helicopter and gravity was shifting and they just like glided out like video game jump. I was like, what is happening? What are we watching here? And then also at the end, when I think Charlie Plummer's character and the actress that was also, I forget her name, that's terrible, but at the same point, they like did that jump at the end that was just gravity taking them across the broken bridge, and it was ridiculous. Everything about it was ridiculous.
Or when they stared at the submarine rolling towards them. But I have to just absolutely share the sentiments of Donald Sutherland, who just had the right idea in this movie. He's like, I'm out.
For the 3 minutes he was in the movie. The 3 minutes.
I'm going to go take care of that business on my desk.
It was a little bit ridiculous. All right, let's shift gears to other stuff that we were watching besides that tragic Roland Emmerich offering. I should mention that in the box office this past weekend, Roland Emmerich's new Moonfall film only made $10 million domestically. And I think it's a huge budget. I think it's $140 million, if not more. And Jackass completely destroyed it, which is just a sign of what we've been saying. We need those movies. We need those, silly outings that are going to give us an escape from the realities that we're living in. So one of the movies that I watched recently after finishing up some of Sundance was GameStop Rise of the Players. So this is a documentary that attempts to explain the GameStop stock phenomenon, stonk, if you will, from last January. So Sean, do you remember this when GameStop stock like shot up dramatically and everyone was like, what is happening?
I remember always trying to be on the precipice of knowing what was being talked about and trying to understand it. And then like when like there was just the slightest bit of a question asked, like from some, like when I was telling someone else thinking I was hot shit, like also not getting it. And I was like, damn it. Nope.
Yeah. So I'm here to tell you that I thought I knew what was going on after this documentary. And then I realized in retelling it that I didn't. So I had to read about it on Wikipedia and I finally understand it. But no, so this is a documentary that attempts to explain what happened. And it really highlights the people that were looking at GameStop stock from early on, even like way before 2021. And we're saying like, this is going to boom at some point. This is going to boom. And it has a lot to do with short selling and essentially manipulation of the markets. If you don't know the story, these internet investors really took some hedge funds to task and inflated the stock of GameStop, I think 2,500% or something. I mean, some of them made out with like millions, like tens of millions of dollars just from investing in GameStop, which didn't do anything. GameStop hadn't shifted, hadn't announced anything, hadn't, purposed what they were doing at a time where it was believed that the company was failing or was on its way to failure because of digital downloads of video games and the resale market of video games really going away. But what they highlight a little bit in this documentary is that GameStop is actually trying to reposition itself in other ways and doing some in-store gaming and taking advantage of internet gaming and Twitch and all that stuff. So that's the extent of my knowledge and understanding of what I watched for 2 hours. But no, this is a really interesting documentary from, if you remember Console Wars, I don't know if you ever watched that. It went to Paramount Plus, I believe.
Oh boy. Okay.
It's from the same director. It's really good. It's well done. It's a solid documentary through and through. I do think it could have been dumbed down a little bit more. I mean, I think about some of those documentaries that are like, or even, oh my gosh, Wolf of Wall Street with, is it Wolf of Wall Street with?
No, you're thinking of, now I can't remember it. With Steve Carell and Ryan Gosling, Christian Bale.
Oh, The Big Short.
The Big Short.
Yeah, The Big Short with I almost said Harley Quinn, but Margot Robbie when she's like, "Here's what's going on."
She's like, here's Margot Robbie in a tub.
Yeah, so that I think makes that would have been very helpful to break it down a little bit more. But it still was really fascinating to see this side of the market and what they were able to do and to understand it a little bit more. So it's a good documentary if you're interested in that type of stuff. I really do think it's well done. I think this guy, I love documentaries, and I think he has a good future ahead of him once he breaks away from video game centric documentaries. A lot of it seems very routine, but he puts it together very in a way that's very appealing. So it's a good documentary. It's in theaters. I'm not sure when it's hitting streaming or anything. It may have already done that, but I do recommend that one.
Nice.
What have you been watching?
Boy, oh boy. Not many new movies because I'm now at this point where I'm sort of straddling when the hell to see Drive My Car. It's in limited theaters near me, and I keep on going back and forth, and I'm trying to make sure it's just all right, so when do I have 3 hours to spare to watch this movie? It's nope, can't do it then. Nope, can't do it then. So eventually I'll get there. I think I'm going to try to go see Drive My Car tomorrow. Jackass we tried to see this weekend, just couldn't get around to do it. That is one that also Sam quite surprised me as she wants to see it as well. So
really,
I'm very impressed with her. She apparently was a huge fan in high school, which is an awesome surprise. So instead, I'm going to talk about a 4-part documentary that was, I believe, at Sundance. At least the first part was. Made by W. Kamau Bell, who I'm always in for because he's got the political comedian activism level where W. Kamau Bell always challenges. Whenever I listen to him on his podcast or anything like that, he always makes me somewhat mad while I also agree with him. So that's the perfect combination. I love that. So I want more of that all the time. And in this one, the documentary is called We Need to Talk About Cosby. And Cosby was Bill Cosby was his idol. He was the idol of many black comedians. And as everyone knows, he has been accused of, and in my opinion and most people's opinions, has raped many, many, many women. The accusations are numerous, way too difficult to ignore, way too difficult to think that there's some sort of conspiracy or there is lying occurring. And so this documentary is so damn responsible and is way more responsible than the statements I just made. They take every single bit of, not evidence. This is not a trial documentary, although it does turn into that maybe in the last episode. But they take every little bit of testimonial. They take the opinions of people on both sides. You can argue, however, there's quite a lot of people on the sides for Cosby that in a way sort of knew better not to go to this documentary, although some people do, and it was great to hear their perspectives. I loved listening to everyone involved. There was some horrific stories that were told. There were some people that talked about why Bill Cosby is one of the greatest comedians of all time. They talk about his rise. They talk about how during his rise, he was doing these horrible acts. So this is not the act of someone who's like an all-star. This is someone who was doing this the whole time. They talk about how he starts as a stand-up comedian. They talk about the contribution he made to the black community. He's the first one to ever provide a black stuntman. Before that, they had white stuntmen that painted them black. He's the first one to have that black show. And to have it been the Cosby Show. And there's an entire show, obviously an entire episode just based on the Cosby Show. And that is the episode where I started crying because I said, this is the best TV show of all time. And he ruined it. He killed it. He absolutely destroyed it with his disgusting persona and everything else. They then get into some interesting things where it's we all know Cosby is not good. We all know Cosby is horrible, a monster. We get into some of the personalities of him as he gets older, where he shows off some of this monstrosity, or maybe it happens even earlier. And you see that there's more to it than just simply, not to say just the rapes, but there is more to it than the capital crime. And they talk about all the justice surrounding it. This is a nurtured documentary that really should be seen by anybody that, sees him at any level, sees Bill Cosby at any level. And, I consider most people are probably on the hate side for him. If you are not, I think this is still something you'd like to see. This, obviously, W. Kamau Bell says, I am no longer a fan, and I believe the women, and I'm no longer a fan of this gentleman. He is no longer my idol. He says that right up front. But he still presents facts, and he does not say you need to feel this way, you need to think this way. This is what's going on. Now you feel whatever way you feel you need to think. And I mean, man, it didn't sway me away from how I already felt, but I'm glad, I'm better for knowing much more about this whole situation.
Yeah, I think I struggle with documentaries like this because I can appreciate that the intent is to explain why, when the allegations first became, I don't even want to say became public, but became part of, they were taken seriously. Let's put it that way, because that's really what happened, right? In the past 7 years, these have really been taken seriously at a time where there's been a reckoning in Hollywood, but it's also recognized that there was a lack of accountability for individuals and what they did back in the olden days of, television and film. And he fell into that. So I didn't see it at Sundance, also because I was just focusing on films and I thought it was a documentary film at first. But I'm interested in it. Have I told you the story? I may have mentioned this before, but my interactions with, or my experience with his trial?
No.
So for those listening, Sean, you know this, but I'm an attorney by trade, and I was essentially, I was clerking for a judge back in 2016 after law school. And it was in Montgomery County, Pennsylvania, which is where the Cosby case took place. And so for a long time, every day that I would go to work, every day that I would go to lunch, all of that, it would be a media circus outside. We were unable to get in there. A lot of times clerks can go in and watch what's going on. Some of the judges' staff can go in and see and watch a case or whatnot, because we're all working there and all part of the profession. But that we were unable to get in there. It was such a high profile case, obviously. And I would see him pretty much every morning come in looking a little bit more haggard, with using a walker, using, he was blind, saying he was blind, all of that stuff. I would go to lunch and have to navigate a gaggle of reporters out on the front steps trying to talk to Gloria Allred, and I'm like, I just want my Subway sandwich. Can you guys just move over? So it was really fascinating to be, a fresh attorney in the same courthouse that this was all going down in, but also having to follow it just like anyone else was and read the same things that everyone else was. I had met the judge that was part of that case and that presided over it, I should say. And it was just a really fascinating experience. So I'm interested to watch it from that perspective, because I clearly had come up with my own opinions of what was actually happening with that case and what he had done and what he was alleged to have done and all of that stuff. I'm with you. I mean, there's so many accusations and whatnot, and the evidence just seems so clear that he likely did what he was accused of. They're trying to get him out, and I think he was just released, right?
Oh, he's out. Yeah, it's because of it's almost like he's out because he confessed. Like, it's the weirdest thing.
Yeah, he had an agreement with the previous district attorney, if I remember correctly, where he pretty much confessed to it, and they said, all right, we won't bring charges if you come clean. And then the new district attorney was like, screw that, we're charging you. And that's ultimately what led to the court case. So.
And there was one attorney that said something where it's like, that's a good law. So that's a good law, but it unfortunately protected this guy.
Absolutely.
Yeah, like that's really sucks about it.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's fascinating. I mean, and we see that a lot with, man, this is turning into a legal podcast, especially with one of the news stories we'll be covering. But that's what happens a lot, is it's not, you don't get off because of the accusations or the, being proved innocent or, poking holes in the accusations. You end up getting off on technicalities and the way that the laws are written and things like that. And that's upsetting in cases like this, especially when they're so high profile and there were so many victims. So, I need to check that out. I'm glad you watched it.
Yeah. Yeah. I will say this, the whole thing is spectacular, but if you are interested in everything you said you're interested in, 4th episode, that's all you need to do. If you want to save some time. I mean, I recommend the whole thing, but from what you said, I was just like, oh crap, no, he pretty much only liked the 4th episode.
Definitely need to check that out. All right, let's jump into covering the news. And of course, we have to start with the Oscar nominations. So this morning, Leslie Jordan and Tracy Ellis, is it Tracy Ellis Ross or just Tracy Ellis?
It is Tracy Ellis Ross.
So they read the nominations. Did you watch any of? You were at school already, but
so it was a worse thing than you could imagine, because it was during class. It is a senior class that and so they're winding down. I mean, they shouldn't be yet, but they are. I didn't have much planned, so my idea was, all right, we're gonna go over these couple of problems, everybody, then we're gonna watch the Oscar nominations. And 75% of the class didn't care. Then there's one kid that gets screeners from her folks and stuff, so their folks are in the business and stuff. So she had a full chart going. She was ready. So they started watching them while I was trying to finish the problems. And I'm getting they're saying where they're just saying out all the different ones where it's just Ruth Negga didn't get nominated. I was like, what? And then I'm just all right, so then we have to get X squared equals. I couldn't so there was this moment where I was just rushing through. And I got through the class, and then finally I was just watching the Oscar noms. But I feel I have to write something down when someone says Leslie Jordan, that does not mean Leslie Jones. I was expecting something extremely different, and which would have been also cool. But this was fun, I think. I don't know. I didn't see much.
They did a little bit of a back and forth, a scripted thing, and it was funny. I mean, Leslie Jordan's hilarious.
Mm-hmm.
And I just always think of Will and Grace. Well. So there were a lot of surprises, not a lot of, I don't know. I don't know how you would actually classify it. Well, I'll throw it to you in a second. I want to pull out some of the things that stood out to me and then go to you as the expert here with what you take from it. First and foremost, I was pulling for a dark horse Ben Affleck nomination for Best Supporting Actor from The Tender Bar.
God, I had him predicted like an idiot. I don't know why I thought that was going to actually happen.
I was really hoping that would happen, but sadly it didn't. Judi Dench for Belfast was a big surprise for me.
Yes, the Dench stench. It came a running to the voters. This is one of those things where I think that there is an older portion of the Academy that hadn't seen Judi Dench's name in a while, and so they got very excited and they started clicking that for the vote. We could also argue that she is pretty great in the movie. I mean, she's in a low amount. She is the very last emotional punch in the face. I got to remember that, where she's the one that turns around and just absolutely rips your heart in half. So there is that going on right away. So, but man, of all of them, that one came out of nowhere the most, I think.
Yeah. I was pretty surprised by that one. I was pleasantly surprised to see J.K. Simmons slip in Best Supporting Actor as well for being the Ricardos. I don't know that I expected that. Did you?
I didn't. I was less pleasantly on that one because, and this may be unfair to J.K., but I've seen him just so much better, and I feel like he was given nothing in this movie. And so that was sort of a surprise for me to see J.K. Simmons in there. But that was the one where I was just really, that one stranged me out without a doubt.
Do you think that it's because the Academy has this thing with actors that play real life individuals?
I think that happened in with Being the Ricardos, because if we look at Being the Ricardos, nothing else got nominated except for 3 performance nominations. And you know, I mean, Nicole Kidman, Javier Bardem as like tremendously famous people. And then J.K. Simmons, who is, you know, playing someone who, you know, I recognized on I Love Lucy and, you know, does a couple of cool impressions with it, but is, you know, not as much there as the others. But yes, if you're playing someone who is known, it's easier because you have that comparative lens. And you like, that's almost like very needed. And you look through and you see that's more often what happens. You got to work harder if it's a fictional character.
Yeah. You know what's funny, Sean, though? I think the generation above us, so our parents' generation and even older, recognize the characters that we probably don't when it comes to I Love Lucy. So, of course, we think of like Ricky and Lucy, but when it's Fred and Ethel, like they're just as synonymous with Lucy as anyone else when it comes to our parents. So I really like J.K. Simmons in the movie. I thought he was great. I thought he really played that well. And I was looking up some old episodes of I Love Lucy after I saw it to try to like get a better picture of how well they did. And I thought that was pretty solid.
It's a weird notice, but it's his little nose scrunch that he does in several of the scenes that was like dead on exactly like him in the show a few times. And I was
and have you watched Family Guy?
Yes, but here and there.
There's a character in Family Guy who he's like this bald head guy that has like a little thing of like hair here, and he like stands like this with like a pot belly and a little. That's who he reminded me of every time, though. I could not get it out of my head. Just as a little aside, 4 other things real quick. Felice should have been nominated for Best Picture, in my opinion. I'm very upset, but it did get nominated for Best International, Best Documentary, and Best Animated.
But that's exactly why it should have gotten nominated for Best Picture. Because if you're like you're covering all of that ground and then you're not going to get nominated for Best Picture, that seems like a very strange move for me. Yeah,
I agree with you. Denis Villeneuve not getting nominated for Best Director for Dune.
What's interesting about this is that is terrible. And I see that as like just very annoying that that's not happening, considering that, granted, Denis wasn't in charge of these technicals, but it was nominated for 10 other awards that were all different technicals that are the creation of this movie that he basically supervises over, and he creates that world. How do you not give something like that to Denis Villeneuve? The other part that's strange is somebody called this, I believe it was Sean Fennessy from The Big Picture, and he's saying it in a mean way. He says these are the Film Twitter Awards, which, okay, whatever. But he says these are the Film Twitter Awards, where pretty much these are just all the snobbish picks and everything from Film Twitter. I look at this and I see, then how in the hell is Denis not getting a nomination for Best Director? And we look at what's happening here. Now, someone made a really good point as well on Little Gold Men. With Denis now out for Best Director, that's going to be a major. You can make a major push for Best Picture. And then the other thing to think about, because you could look at Ben Affleck and Argo. You could look at, there was another one I was thinking of. But Ben Affleck and Argo is like the most recent one. Didn't get nominated for Best Director. kind of made it was a huge deal, and they just pushed and pushed and pushed to get that best picture. And that's when we're dealing with, like, all right, so best picture, who's like in the front runners right now? It's Belfast, which isn't terribly popular, even though it's a lovely film, and Power of the Dog, which all you have to do with that is say the word Netflix. I know you have other reasons, but I'll say, like, all you have to do is say the word Netflix, and there is a like 67% of the Academy, like a dark, shadowy figure that will come over and just choke Power of the Dog until it dies, because we will never have a Netflix movie win Best Picture. And so
yeah, they're the Trump voters.
Honest to God, they're just like, no, never. Truly, that is what I see, kind of like happening still, because everyone's just like, Power of the Dog is in the lead to win, and I'm like, hey guys, that's great, but in a year where literally theaters were burnt to the ground, a theater film still won. I keep on saying that. That was last year. Nomadland, technically a theater film. Yeah, it went on Hulu, and that's when actually literally everyone watched it. But technically, that was out in theaters. And so, like, this is one of those things where we are not going to be there. Now, Dune is technically a theater film. Box office went pretty well. I could see that, taking care of it. The other interesting thing about all of it is Spielberg getting the director as well. Hey, I like Spielberg's direction in this. I think he deserves it. I'm not saying that Spielberg doesn't deserve that nomination, but Tony Kushner does not get nominated for the writing of West Side Story, adapting a play, and changing stuff up pretty interesting. Meanwhile, Dune does get nominated. Now, I thought Dune's nominations, they were pretty good. Does get nominated for the screenplay. I liked that screenplay for Dune. I thought that was a really cool adaptation. Definitely changed a few things around to make it fit really nice around for a movie. So I think it's great, but that's an interesting one where those two were the ones that switched, because you'd think it would go the other way with those two.
Sean, before I jump into some other thoughts here, we have comments around Last Night in Soho being completely snubbed. That's one that wasn't on my radar for the Oscars. Was that on yours?
It wasn't. There was a lukewarm reception from the critics, which means it should have gotten nominated for 25 awards. No, I don't know what happened with that one, but Edgar Wright is not exactly an awards magnet. I mean, that's one thing to keep in mind. He's not someone that has gotten anything yet, and so something would have had to really stand out. And having someone as risky as a director as Edgar Wright, not to say there's anything wrong with him, just unknown to the awards circuit, and then to have the genre be basically kind of a horror, which is also unknown to the awards circuit. There's a lot of stuff that is mixing around there. Jordan Peele for Get Out was able to pull it off, but there was enough accessibility there to have that happen.
I'm with you there. It wasn't really on my radar when it came to even being considered for any of the categories, honestly. I don't even think the acting was fine for the movie that it was. I don't know that it would break through any of the nominees that we received today.
If it was going to compete anywhere, if there was going to be, it would be interesting to get a Terrence Stamp like campaign going for the nomination, because he's he's got the old guy move. I would say I'll take this back and say the technicals with Last Night in Soho. There's a lot of great sound work, a lot of great production design. That's something where I would love to have seen it thrive. Maybe a makeup, that's quite pushing it. And in my opinion, a lot of people said the visual effects were shit. I thought the visual effects were pretty damn good. I
agree.
Yeah.
Well, and especially given that they took some of I guess the way they filmed it was the shifts, when they're dancing and you see them switch the actresses or whatever, that was actual switching. They actually filmed it that way and were able to pull that off. And I think that's pretty, when you're talking about technical, that's pretty damn technical and impressive.
Well, no, see, that was the wrong thing. What they should have done is they should have done that like they did, but said it was editing, so it would get best editing. But no, they had to be honest. Yeah.
We don't like honesty. Honesty is not a thing for us today.
Yeah, that's how you get Oscars.
Honesty gets you Oscars. I will tell you that watching ABC News earlier when they were covering what the Academy did with the nominations today, one of them made a comment saying so they were talking about the potential host, right? And who should be a host to pull people in? Are these movies that are nominated for Best Picture enough to get the layperson interested in watching the awards? And someone was like, well, civilians did see, like they referred to like non-critics as civilians. I was like, oh, okay.
Civilian watching, like just like civilian deaths in military. It's like civilian watching has been going up.
Two other things. I was surprised that Eternals wasn't nominated for visuals. I was very surprised by that because I thought that it did have some beautiful visuals, especially in the third act. And finally, Mask got completely snubbed.
Mask getting completely snubbed was like my prediction, especially. You know, the only hope out there that I had, and I had her, I think, at 6th place, was Ann Dowd to possibly get in, but Mask, my favorite film of the year, wouldn't exactly do it there. Wasn't gonna make it. I'm trying to think of some of the. Oh, go for it.
Was there anything else that stuck out to you with these nominations, whether it was snubs or, we had a lot of records today, or a lot of first times. So Jane Campion being the first female director nominated for Best Director twice. Best Picture or Best Director? Best Director.
Yeah.
And then you had Troy Kotsur from Coda being nominated, first deaf actor being nominated for Best Lead Actor. I'm trying to think of other Denzel for his 10th time being nominated, I believe it is. Yeah, that should be happy. You should be happy about that because you went off about that with the BAFTAs not recognizing him.
Still no BAFTAs for Denzel. It's I don't know what's happening. They're doing it on purpose. They're all smiling there as they pull that lever for no BAFTA for Denzel. I don't know what the hell to do with that. Here's something I want to talk about. Your favorite film, 4 Good Days, got an Oscar nom. And
I screamed, "Are you fucking kidding me?"
You know why though, right?
Why?
Because the song is written by Diane Warren, who has now been nominated 13 times, and has not received a win. This is basically it's insulting at this point, but they just keep on nominating her, and they're doing it now to be mean because she's not going to win for this song. so
what song would you have nominated in place of that one?
From May We Start. Well, May We Start. The one where it's Adam Driver, Marianne Cotillard, Annette.
Oh, Jesus. I could see that one, actually. I was going to say Just
That's
Look
a
Up
good
from
one
Don't
to
Look
have,
Up.
right? Man, oh
Just
man.
Just Look Up from Don't Look Up is what I was going to say.
Oh, that would be a good one. Yeah.
They love star power. Think about like when they're nominating these. I truly believe this. They're thinking about the telecast as well, right? So you have Beyonce nominated for King Richard Be Alive, and so they're totally going to have her perform, which is a big draw. But you could have had Ariana Grande up there too. You're going to have Lin-Manuel doing Dos Oruguitas, and that's going to be incredibly depressing. He better include What About Bruno, or We Don't Talk About Bruno.
I wonder if he'll rap on stage or do something like that. I am wondering if Van Morrison will be showing up in Down to Joy, or will he have his Vax card by then?
All right, so let's move on. Any other thoughts? Any other thoughts with the Oscars before we get to the Razzies?
There's nothing else. I just went through it a bunch. I feel like I should have way more to talk about. Besides needing desperately to see Drive My Car, needing desperately to see the worst person in the world, I will be watching the shorts eventually. I got to try to find them. Oh, big one. For Best Documentary, a couple of big things happened there.
Oh, yeah, good call there.
Yes. First of all, it finally happened. The curse has been broken, and the leading prospect of the documentary, now, yeah, this could be interesting, and the leading prospect of the documentary was not axed out and snubbed. And Summer of Soul was given the nomination. Now, here's where it gets interesting. A lot of people thought The Rescue was the front runner. And
that's what I was going to say. I was shocked that wasn't in there.
And so The Rescue is like The Rescue. Everyone could see that's the front runner. So maybe the curse of the front runner could still be the sort of issue there. But I'm very excited to see Attica in there. I never thought Attica would go in, and I loved Attica.
I remember when you watched that and you were big on it.
Oh, man. But then eventually in like 2028, I'll see Flea, and then Ascension and Writing with Fire. But it was very, very, very shocking not to see The Rescue.
So that was the one that surprised me. I was watching them this morning. I'm staying with my parents, and my dad was watching the nominations with me, and I was trying to type on Twitter real quick and update the Guide to Movies Twitter, and I like typed it, and then I moved on to the next one. I was like, wait, did they say The Rescue? Like, even though I just typed them all out, I'm like, did they say? I was very surprised by that, but because you saw that, right? That's a solid documentary.
It's a really good documentary. I liked it quite a bit, so that was very interesting.
Besides that, Sean, I would say that these were pretty straightforward.
They're good nominations. Like, there's a couple with the exception of like the Denis and maybe a couple of performances, I have nothing to really be that angry about. Like, there's nothing that's really that bad.
Cody from Power of the Dog was a weird nomination to me.
Oh, well, I mean, it's a weird nomination on terms of quality, but not in terms of he might win. I'm saying, hey, I'm just telling he's won every precursor so far. But in my opinion, I will say Jesse Plemons coming in for Power of the Dog is good because there's going to be a little bit of a vote splitty. And then there's also Cody Smith-McPhee, just like with your eye roll there. You know, his performance is pretty divisive. And so I think that when they have a divisive performance and a possible vote split, and there's a lot of chaos going, you got to think of a really wholesome performance in here. And which has a really wholesome performance in here? Let me see.
Troy Kotsur.
Troy Kotsur from Coda, who's going to win. He's my like dark horse. All the other categories, I'm playing it safe, and I'm just like I'm playing it safe with Troy Kotsur too. He is, and genuinely, I sort of told you about this. He said some very thoughtful and moving words, and that is still campaigning where you're letting yourself open and you're truly like, this is something where this is where people start to love you. And I'm telling you, this is big.
Sean, I texted you this earlier when I was watching the news. They were talking about him, and this isn't a direct quote. It's essentially it. I probably fumbled a few words, but essentially they said, how are you going to celebrate? And he said, I'm going to celebrate with my friends, and I'd like to visit my parents at the cemetery to let them know too. And when I tell you that I had a chill come over my body and I was like immediately about to cry, that's just so wholesome. And you're exactly right that that's what the Academy loves. Is that campaigning? Yes. Is that truthful campaigning or genuine campaigning? I think so.
He's showing himself. That's campaigning. Yeah, and that's
show yourself. What's that from? Frozen 2? Show yourself.
Is it?
It is. Probably Frozen 1. I don't know.
Oh, you're right. It's when she's in the ice castle.
Oh, yeah. And she stomps her foot a lot. Show yourself.
She always stomps her foot to get some ice.
One other thing to get some ice. I do that when I'm at a hotel. I'm like, I need ice. Show yourself.
Like, Elsa, get some ice.
What did Jared say a few weeks ago? Eat it, Elsa.
Eat it, Elsa.
One last thing I'll mention is I saw this discussion online today about Cyrano and the Oscars, which I thought was really interesting. So I believe Cyrano got nominated for costume, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
But the story behind Cyrano, and of course this is with Peter Dinklage, Amazon moved it a few times. So it was supposed to do a limited run and then hit theaters, I think a week or two later, full tilt. It ended up getting moved to February 25th, full release. So not limited, full release. This is a movie that I watched before Christmas, I believe. I think I got the screener for. So that's just a sign of when they started pushing it. They really thought it was going to be an awards player. What's fascinating is it's not, as we saw today. It's releasing on February 25th, and it's a week before a little movie called The Batman hits theaters. So that was a major miscalculation on the part of Amazon.
It's a risky move. It's a move that helped Anthony Hopkins win an Oscar. It's a move that helped Penelope Cruz get nominated for an Oscar. And it's a move that Sony Pictures Classics is way better at doing than Amazon, apparently. There's a little bit of finesse required because it's risky. It's a great idea, because if you're like, hey, Last Night in Soho, if we go back to that movie is, kind of prime Oscar dating, but if it doesn't hit exactly that right spot, it could tumble off a little bit more and just not work at all. But when you look at something like Cyrano, it's got to get closer and closer and closer to that nomination voting date, and there's a lot of people that love it, but like very little people that have seen it, and that just completely throws it off.
Yeah, it's fascinating, because I think that studios are still trying to figure out how to play the field right now, so to speak, with the pandemic, with streaming, with theaters being open but not open. I mean, for instance, like look at Moonfall. That's obviously, we're not talking awards with Moonfall, I don't think ever. But Moonfall didn't open in Canada because of issues around the pandemic and stuff. So we're still running into those release issues that are also impacting the dates and the means of release. So what another wild year for cinema.
Hopefully this will be a wild beginning. I mean, like something like Nightmare Alley getting Best Picture nominations or a nomination. I think that had a decent amount to do with HBO Max putting it on their streaming service. Like, I mean, right when the Academy voted. Now, I just realized this today, and it makes me want to throw like bricks through walls, but there is a streaming service for Academy members, like a Netflix for Academy members. Like, what are they complaining about anymore? Like, just watch your movies. Go away.
The Hollywood Foreign Press Association's like, see? Anyway, so let's dive into the Razzies. So we have the Oscars that recognize the best of the year. We have the Razzie Awards that recognize the worst of the year. This is the 42nd year for them. And I'm just going to run through the nominations real quick. Sean, tell me if there's anything that stands out here. Worst Picture, Diana the Musical, the Netflix version, Infinite, Karen, Space Jam: A New Legacy, and The Woman in the Window. What stands out for me initially is I really liked The Woman in the Window. Was it great? No. Was it terrible? I don't think it was terrible.
It wasn't Worst Picture, but, it wasn't great.
Worst Actor, Scott Eastwood, Dangerous, Ro Harmtef as Prince Charles / in Diana the Musical, LeBron James in Space Jam: A New Legacy, Ben Platt in Dear Evan Hansen, and Mark Wahlberg in Infinite.
Oh boy. I mean, you could just just say Scott Eastwood and then stop. But I think I'm going to go with Platt on this one.
I'm going to tell you something offline about the comment you just made, and just remind me after we're done.
Okay.
Worst Actress, Amy Adams, Woman in the Window. Don't think that's necessary. Gianna Day Wall, probably butchered that. Diana the Musical. Megan Fox, Midnight in the Switchgrass. Taryn Manning, Karen. Ruby Rose, Vanquish. Taryn Manning and Ruby Rose, of course, come from Orange is the New Black.
That's one that bums me out, is like, obviously I haven't seen Karen, and I thought that was like a horrible idea for a movie, and like I saw the trailer and said I will never see this. I think Taryn Manning is a very funny comedic actress, so it does bum me out that like she thought like, hey, this might be a good idea, and just God. So I do feel somewhat bad. I mean, do I just take the easy shots at Megan Fox? I mean, I haven't seen any of these.
Worst Supporting Actress, Amy Adams, Dear Evan Hansen. I don't think that's necessary.
Yeah, that's for more.
Sophie Cookson, Infinite. Erin Davey as Camilla, the future queen in Diana the Musical. Did you catch that this weekend?
What is this?
So Camilla, who Prince Charles cheated on Diana with, was just named in real life Queen Consort by Queen Elizabeth. So when Charles is king, she'll be queen.
Oh, but let's not give Stewart a nomination.
She got the
nomination. that might make the royal family look bad.
Judy Kay as both Queen Elizabeth and Barbara Cartland in Diana the Musical, and Taryn Manning in every last one of them. Taryn Manning pulling 2 nominations as well as Amy Adams there.
Yikes. She had a rough year.
Yeah. Worst Supporting Actor, Ben Affleck in The Last Duel.
That's actually when we stop doing this right. This is an atrocious list, and these people suck. That is a freaking amazing performance. That was one of my top performances from him. That is a spectacular performance. What a bunch of assholes these Razzies.
He played it so well. He played
so
it
good.
Well. Nick Cannon, The Misfits, Mel Gibson, Dangerous, Gareth Keegan as James Hewitt, the muscle-bound horse trainer. That's a thing in Diana the Musical. And Jared Leto in House of Gucci.
Come on, bring it to Leto. We almost had it for 2 years in a row where there was going to be a crappy actor nomination for a Razzie and an Oscar. We were that close because Leto would have gotten nominated.
We should have mentioned that earlier too. Jared Leto did not get nominated by the Oscars, and thank God.
Can we? So now, after the past 2 years of this happening, can we now stop talking about that? Because that is like, this. Granted, this time I was a little bit more worried, but for the love of God, like I remember when the little things and it was little things, and then this, and it was just like, oh, Leto's definitely gonna do it. We should be serious about Leto. Let's stop being serious about Leto. Let's realize that this actually won't happen. He's not going to get close to this anymore.
My buddy was watching the House of Gucci with his partner last night, and he texted me and he goes, "We're watching House of Gucci. These Italian accents are offensive."
Still appreciate Jeremy Irons saying, "Yeah, I'm not doing it."
Yeah, just there's a special category this year: worst performance by Bruce Willis in a 2021 movie. Bruce Willis is just phoning it in and collecting a paycheck. I'm not even running through that list, but that's there.
You don't run through it, but there are 8 movies. There's not 5 movies. So they could have, if they wanted to, have been schmarmy and done just like the 5 movies that are there. But no, they show all 8 movies.
I think he was in more than that.
Oh, no.
Oh, no. Boss Level was Mel Gibson.
And Frank Grillo, yeah.
Cosmic Sin was horrendous.
That's the one. I picked that one because you said that.
I'm not going to jump into worst screen couple too much, except for Ben Platt and any other character who acts like Platt singing 24/7 is normal. And then there's worst remake, ripoff, or sequel, worst director, worst screenplay. Winners are announced the night before the Oscars. So the Razzies are interesting, but I think a lot of people are starting to rag against them now.
They can, I don't know, there's something about them where they don't work as well as I'd expect them to. I mean, one of the things, like when Glenn Close got nominated for an Oscar and a Razzie, and it was, you know what, that performance didn't deserve a Razzie. It's not a good performance. It didn't deserve an Oscar either. But it was one like that at that point, like the Woman in the Window being up here a lot just seems strange. It's you can have some fun with these, I think, obviously as like an amateur critic. Yeah, I'm like, writing Fs and we're shitting on Moonfall and everything. But I don't know. There's something about like where it just gets to be a little bit more like slogging through the mud the whole time.
Yeah. When I see a lot of repeats in the Razzies, I'm like, you guys are stretching this year, huh?
Yeah.
So like Diana the Musical really took a lot of the heat, and that's not even a movie technically.
Oh, well, no, let's not get into that Hamilton-like debate again.
Hamilton was a movie. Anyway, no. All right, let's jump into our next story. So going back to the legal aspect of my life here, this is a fascinating one. Warner Brothers is facing a lawsuit from production company Village Roadshow over the Matrix Resurrections. So I read the 50-page complaint because that is something I enjoy, nerd. But I want to run through some of the highlights here. So Village Roadshow is saying that per their agreement with Warner Brothers, WB must develop marketing plans for each film that they share with them. So some of these films include Edge of Tomorrow, Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, The Matrix series, the Matrix franchise, and that these marketing plans need to be consistent with industry standards and consistent with customary commercial practices in the motion picture industry. They're alleging that the day and date plan, so releasing films in 2021 in theaters and on HBO Max on the same day, is not consistent with the customary commercial practices. They're alleging that WB is sending films to HBO Max to simply boost their subscribers and cut out companies like Village Roadshow and not properly accounting for the revenue owed. Internally, this plan to put films on HBO Max the same day as in theaters was called Project Popcorn for HBO, or for Warner Brothers, I should say. Warner Media, I guess it is. And VR, Village Roadshow, is alleging that only Warner Media benefits from the day and date scheme in terms of the boost in subscribers and the revenue they get from that. So meaning that the companies, when you're watching a movie And you see all these companies that are coming on screen ahead of the film. There's always like 10 of them, 5 to 10 of them. And you're like, okay, they show you their animations and then they put them on there in text. You see them twice. That they're not benefiting from these. And they're alleging that Warner Media may have been doing this to better position themselves and look better in the eyes of Discovery when they were going for the merger with Discovery. They're also alleging that The Matrix Resurrections was moved from 2022 to 2021 for the sole purpose of being put on HBO Max at the same time to be the final film as part of Project Popcorn. As part of this allegation, and tell me when I'm getting too technical or when I'm getting too deep here, Sean, but they're saying that WB knew that this move to HBO Max would decimate the box office for The Matrix Resurrections, and the money that VR Village Roadshow could have made and should have made was tied to box office performance. According to Village Roadshow, WB also knew that this would lead to, by putting the film on streaming, it would lead to higher rates of piracy because you're throwing a film on streaming, all of a sudden it's going to be pirated, which further is going to reduce the box office performance and further impact the economic upside for Village Roadshow. Further, they're just saying that it hurts the Matrix franchise as a whole. So any future projects that could have come from the Matrix Resurrections, whether that was a streaming series or another sequel or whatever, was hurt by this move. That's the one I don't necessarily agree with. I think if you put a better movie out there, you would have been fine or would have been in better shape. But here's where it gets interesting. There's 2 other projects that come up in this allegation, or this complaint, I should say. And one of them includes allegations surrounding the upcoming Wonka movie, which had first been described as a prequel to Charlie and the Chocolate Factory and is starring Timothée Chalamet. Village Roadshow is saying that it, again, first was described as a prequel, but ultimately is now being described as a separate project. Why? Because since Village Roadshow was one of the companies behind Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, any project linked to that or derivative of that would result in monies owed to Village Roadshow. By not connecting Wonka with Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, even though it, for all intents and purposes, it's a prequel, they're cutting Village Roadshow out and not allowing them to recognize the economic upside. The final one is apparently there's an Edge of Tomorrow TV series in the works. So this is the Emily Blunt and Tom Cruise movie that I think was really underrated. A lot of people seem to love it. But Warner Brothers asked, allegedly, and there's emails in the complaint that support this, allegedly asked Village Roadshow to give up co-financing and co-ownership rights. And when Village Roadshow refused, WB said that they're going to make sure that Village Roadshow no longer benefits from the derivative rights, which essentially means that they're going to make sure that that they're maybe not moving forward with that project so that they don't see any economic upside, or that they're going to make sure that whatever goes through is not as profitable as it can be so that Village Roadshow doesn't see the economic upside. This is a wild case. It harkens back a little bit to what we saw with Scarlett Johansson suing Disney over the release of Black Widow on Disney Plus at the same time, because a lot of her compensation was tied to box office performance. Disney turned around and just paid Scarlett Johansson and was like, yeah, you're right. They didn't say that. They didn't admit any fault, but essentially that's what it was. Hey, you're right. Take your money. But you may remember there were complaints about other projects, right? So Lionsgate was one of the, was it Lionsgate or Legendary? I'm sorry. Legendary was one of the companies that was really complaining about this, first with Godzilla versus Kong and then with Dune. And luckily they were able to work something out, but this is the first time it's heading to the courts.
I mean, I think the Legendary worked something out because they decided to, bring this issue up, a year and a half ago when all this stuff started. I'm like kind of baffled by Village Roadshow being like, like, oh yeah, we're a movie company. Like just like realizing like I don't think we're getting any money. I was sort of, it seems a little bit odd where it's like that. Now, WB is operating like a supervillain that is like, okay, are you coming to complain? Here, come into this room. They slit their throat, and then Village Roadshow is like walking out and then just collapses in the snow. So it seems like it's terrifying the way WB is doing business. I think that, it should have been monitored a little bit more closer with Village Roadshow. It should have been monitored in general. You think these things you think we would have stopped talking about this at this point. Yeah. And this case was like tough for me to follow just now. I needed you to be in a bubble bath with champagne to help out. But yeah. Oh, right there. But that's pretty much for where I'm standing. That's what's going on with it, where these smaller, studios that are sort of unfortunately have to bow to WB, have to make some kind of deal with them based on this issue, and they still stand to lose the money. Now, Village Roadshow is doing this late, and so because Village Roadshow is doing this late, they're kind of getting screwed over in the future projects that are there, which seems like I'll put it in the in a parlance that you didn't exactly put it in. It seems fucked up.
That's a legal term.
Yeah, I figured it was.
It does seem like maybe this was something that was happening behind the scenes, or an argument that was happening behind the scenes, and it didn't go public like the legendary one did. Yeah. But now, I guess they don't see any other recourse, and they're moving forward with the litigation. I will say that there's other aspects to this that I'm not really recalling here, but Village Roadshow is one of the companies behind Joker, right? And Joker was highly profitable, and Joker is one of the ways that Warner Brothers is marketing HBO Max and saying that that's available on HBO Max. But I believe Village Roadshow is alleging that they're not receiving any compensation for the use of that film to drive people towards that part of the company. So of course, I hope I'm right in this, but HBO Max, I think, is part of Warner Media, not necessarily part of Warner Brothers Pictures. It's a separate company, essentially. It's like a sister company, but Warner Media ultimately is who's benefiting from all this. And so they're kind of cutting out like the other co-financers, that's the allegation, at least. I'm sure there's more to the story, and I haven't looked to see if there was a reply, and I would love to see that. But fascinating. I mean, I think we're going to continue to see some more of this happening.
Yeah. Well, I think studios fighting seems like something that should go down a little bit more. I would kind of like to see what happens there. I mean, it just seems like studios just buy each other, or then like the Disney Zamboni just comes in, just like...
This just in, Disney bought Bleecker Street.
Releasing Mass on Disney Plus sounds like a real hoot.
Oh my God. All right. The next story here is in the Sony Pictures Spider-Man universe, or whatever the hell it's called these days. So the Madam Web movie, which has been rumored for a while and is a Spider-Man spinoff, has found its star in Dakota Johnson. So Dakota Johnson was most recently seen widely in The Lost Daughter, but she also was in 2 films at Sundance that were very well received. Am I Okay, which was picked up by HBO Max, and Cha Cha Real Smooth, which I loved and was my top of Sundance, which is heading to Apple TV Plus, I believe. She'll star as the character. It's going to be directed by S.J. Clarkson, who did a lot of episodes for Marvel series The Defenders and Jessica Jones on Netflix. And it's also going to be written by Matt Sazama and Burke Sharpless, who wrote Morbius. The interesting piece here, and what has the internet in Twitter, if you will, get it, is that I forgot to mention the Tinder swindler earlier. I watched that too. That there's some confusion because Madam Web is a elderly woman essentially, and she is using a web-like life support system and never really fights any villains. So people, I think Deadline notes that this potentially could be a different project altogether, or a different iteration of it. But hey, Dakota Johnson, love her, so let's get her into the MCU in some way.
I just love the old-timey producers that are just like, what Spider-Man character we got? Madam Web. It's a really old woman that's like kept alive by spider webs, and this producer just like sex it up. Just like,
Bring her in.
and so it's like, okay, I guess Dakota Johnson. Like, it's like we'll make her old. No, keep her like that. It'll be good.
Sony's really riding high and trying to fill all this out. I mean, we haven't even seen Morbius yet. So when it comes to movies that we've seen within Sony's Spider-Man universe or whatever, again, whatever the hell they're calling it, the artist formerly known as Spunk, they have only released the 3 Spider-Man movies and the 2 Venom movies, if I'm not mistaken. Morbius is upcoming in April, been delayed 11 times.
Yeah. Matt Sazama and Berg Sharpless, I don't think they've finished writing the Morbius movie, so then they got to get right onto that Madam Web. But
it doesn't exist.
It truly doesn't exist. I'm excited for the Defenders and Jessica Jones are some fun live action Marvel properties, and so I'm really kind of digging that director as well. I think that would be something fun. Action packed, but yeah. So like, what is Madam Web is usually like stuck on the wall with the webs and is just kind of like that kind of thing and stuff. That's just not a compelling character anyway.
Are you playing for the clip of the week? Is that what that was?
No, I thought we already had a good one. I forgot which one. My eyes are like half open because I'm exhausted. We're not getting a good clip of the week, and I look at this beard, and then just like I'm just looking at myself. My face is now a globe. You want a clip of the week? We can have a clip of the week. Is my breakdown right now? Here we go.
Yeah, you already have your award. Shut up. No, I don't really know much about her. Every image that I see and every story that I read kind of leans back into this elderly woman that is kept alive on life support, which doesn't really seem like something that could carry an entire movie, which leads me to believe that little throwaway line in the Deadline article that says like there could be other things at play here is probably true. But no good transition to this one. I was just going to make one up and it wasn't
Give
going
it a
to
shot,
go well.
buddy. Do it.
Yeah, well, let's I don't know. Cha-cha real smooth over to Michael Jackson biopic. John Logan from The Aviator is going to write the upcoming Michael Jackson biopic, which is now landed at Lionsgate. It's titled Michael. Here's
How
why
did they
I
get
wanted
that
to bring
title?
I'm not sure. Here's why I wanted to bring it up. The Bohemian Rhapsody producer Graham King is behind the project, but he's working with Jackson's estate. And that's kind of what bothers me with this. It's similar to like the Madonna documentary that's coming out where she's like directing, producing, writing,
Starring.
like breathing, all that shit. Michael Jackson is a controversial figure, especially when you take in like the last decade and a half of his life. Are we going to gloss over that? Or are we not going to touch on it? Because when you have the estate involved, who has vehemently denied all of those allegations, what are we doing there? What are we actually getting? And is it worth it to actually have a biopic that's going to be cherry picked?
You can't make a biopic like that. It's disrespectful to the victims. You straight up can't. Whether the accusations, we talked about this in the beginning. Hey, you want to make a Cosby biopic, and see how that goes, and just hey, all the way up until 1995, around there, and
the
then
rest is history.
Yeah, and then it's like nothing bad happens because there'll be plenty of people that like control that estate. It's not going to work. Now, the other end of it is, of course, you'll get sued by the estate, which, if you have enough lawyers, blah, 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 people will back you like in that regard. So it's either you work with the estate and you like kind of sell your soul, or you have to deal with lawsuits like crazy. Graham King is really no stranger to working with the estate with Bohemian Rhapsody, because that's exactly what happened there when, the other 3 to 4 gentlemen of Queen were literally producers of the entire deal, and so it's just like Freddie was an idiot for leaving. We did nothing wrong, and it's like, oh god, I hate that freaking movie so much. But yeah, it's one of those things where if your character has a controversy involved, that controversy has to be mentioned. I mean, hey, let's think about, John Logan writing writing he wrote The Aviator. Like, I mean,
He-
Howard.
He also wrote Gladiator.
Oh, nice. Howard Hughes had plenty of issues. They show some of those. They don't show all of them. He was a lot more of a womanizer, woman abuser. We could definitely talk about that kind of most likely. And but they still like show him with his devils, show him with his issues, show him with it like the problems that he has. They were probably able to get away with that because everyone that loved the guy was Bones. So it's one of those things where that is when you make the biopic for Michael Jackson, is when there are people that will, consistently know the real story or the story like that we get for the facts and constantly do until we're in a situation where, and I don't know how the legal situation works then. I know the states get passed down, but you can't do something like this until, it's farther away, just because it creates complications that, while maybe deserved or while maybe not deserved, are still there.
Yeah, I don't know. It just seems a little bit money grabby in a way. I mean, it's totally
Definitely
money grabby, I guess. But I have zero interest in it because of that. I do want to go back to our Madam Web story because someone in the comments said Dakota Johnson could be playing another version of Madam Web that transfers her consciousness into a Spider-Woman variant. Cool. Okay.
That works.
That works. I'm on board. All right, let's jump into rants and raves. I have a very short one. We saw it tonight when we watched the trailer for Lightyear. Teasers for trailers, not teasers for movies that are released that are 30 seconds long or whatnot that kind of like get you hyped for the trailer that will eventually come. But that like 5-second, if even that, quick clip, whatever, that precedes the actual trailer. Why are we doing this now? What is the purpose of that? So I watched the same scene multiple times in the trailer and the teaser there, and then I see it again in the movie, and I'm like, well, I saw most of this in the trailer, the teaser to the trailer, and the teaser that was already released. I have no interest in that. Why are we doing this? What was the shift that led to that?
I will say this. It is getting even weirder now. I remember in college, it would be like we'd be excited about a trailer coming out. And it was because the day before there was like the 5-second teaser trailer to the trailer coming out, but it was the day before. And so in that regard, it almost sort of made some sense because I'm like, oh, a trailer is going to come out tomorrow. But the ones we're getting now it is before the actual literal trailer. And so that's
like in the same video.
Yeah, on the same video. And it's literally just like bang, 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 Lightyear. And then it keeps
Trailer
going.
starts now.
And then, trailer starts now. And it's like, no, we don't need that. We don't need that because it's already. Oh, yeah.
It's ridiculous. I will tell you, I remember back in the day, like back in the day is a bad example because I'm going to use an example from today. But you're exactly right. Like back in the day, we would get a Marvel whatever that would be like a quick flash of Spider-Man for it wasn't actually Spider-Man, but of a character that would like get you excited for what they were going to show during the halftime show of the AFC Championship or whatever. We just got that with Nope today, the Jordan Peele movie. There was a first look that I think they released a few pictures or something, and the trailer's coming during the Super Bowl. All about that. Great way to lead you into that. I don't need to see it in the same video. Now, my question for you leading into what I believe is a rant is, does this spell the end of Awards Watch for you?
No, not at all. I love examining like the awards and stuff like that. This is where people are just like obsessed with, the ratings of the Oscars. So my rant is, sort of the obsession with the Oscars popularity. And I've already mentioned their podcast, but I love their podcast and I listen to it all the time. The Big Picture, Sean Fennessy, Amanda Dobbins, they're like, they do the same thing as me. They obsessively look at everything, but they look at the big picture of like what? How about that? For how everything can work for the Oscars in the favor of like, can they still be famous in a while? And what the Oscars do? Are we advertising the Oscars? Are we like advertising movies in general? Because that's the Academy of Motion Picture Arts and Sciences. Their job is to advertise movies. So how does that work? Should it be the best movies? And then we get into what are the best movies? Are they the ones that Film Twitter says? Are they the ones that we say? Are they the ones that the box office says? Well, nobody's going to the damn theater, so who cares who go like the box office is anymore and stuff like that. But I look at each one of these and I worry about this. And I've written an article about this, and I think I'm going to write an article more specifically about the nominations because, people say like, oh, all of these nominations have such a low count of who's seen them and who hasn't seen them. People haven't seen Drive My Car. Who's going to see it? And I wonder about, I don't have an answer for this. That's the one thing is I don't have an answer for this, but I don't want us to get obsessive about the popularity of it. You want to nominate Spider-Man No Way Home. It's a damn fine movie. It would have been lovely to see it on the 10. It would have been a fun thing to see. Is it on my top 10? No, it's not. It's not. But it would be a fun, interesting way to show how like producers can get together and work on that. Do you think that Spider-Man No Way Home is going to cause any one more person to show up or not show up? Well, they got to have tickets to turn on the Oscars on the night that they're done? Probably not. It's really tricky for me to think because the reason and the problem is, and the other side of it is that there are these, lovely people that hate the Oscars. They're never going to watch the Oscars because they're like, only the stuffy films get nominated. Only the stuff. And it's like, well, look at the list. Yeah, you're kind of right a little bit. But there are films that aren't stuffy as well. There's not 10 stuffy movies on there. There's a few stuffy movies on there. Then there's a few movies that are pretty great. And everyone just says, oh, well, I haven't seen any of the nominees. I'm like, well, go look and find them. All right. Google them. Figure out where they are. Go find a movie and watch it on here. This is the representation of the movies that happened here. Just see what's going on. So I guess my rant is, do not worry about the Oscars being popular. Want to know why? Because the Academy doesn't care about them being popular. The Academy is working on their museum. The Academy is working on how movies are getting popular. They're getting money. They're going to be fine. Okay. The ratings are going to be shit. The ratings will be terrible. The ratings are going to be the worst we'll ever see. Who gives a shit?
We'll still have the Oscars next year.
There's still going to be Oscars next year. They're still going to be shown. Okay. They're still going to dig out the money to have those happen. Okay. Production companies have unlimited sources of money. We're going to see the Oscars. They're going to exist. If there's 6 people watching, the Oscars are still going to exist. All right. It's just one of those things where, watch the movies that are there. They're the movies of the year. Some of them are wrong, in my opinion, of a quality, but they're still the movies of the year. Don't Look Up as a movie of the year. I don't like it, but it's a movie of the year. So there's a lot of different movies like that where, that enjoy that kind of thing. And really check them out. I gotta follow my own advice and watch Drive My Car, but then it'll be good.
Well, and to the people that are in the comments asking what the picks are for Best Picture and Best Director, we'll be covering that in the next couple of weeks leading up to the Oscars. Sean will definitely be talking about it in his columns each Monday. And then we'll probably really get into our predictions the week prior to the March 27th Oscars. I will say, if you go back and listen to the beginning of the podcast, Sean made a push for Dune as Best Picture due to Denis not being nominated for Director. I think Power of the Dog is going to probably take both, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm.
But it doesn't mean I want them to. So there's that. But yeah, hey, wonderful. All right, let's jump into what is coming out this week before we wrap up. A few things here. Kimmy is hitting HBO Max, which is one of the worst publicized or promoted films. Kimmy. Death on an Isle.
The murder, Kimmy. Can you, Kimmy?
Death on an Isle hits theaters on Friday. It's actually getting better reviews than I expected it to. So,
really?
Yeah. I Want You Back hits Amazon Prime Video on Friday. My review for that will drop tomorrow around noon. Marry Me hits theaters and Peacock on Friday. Big Bug hits Netflix on Friday. Liam Neeson's next film, Blacklight, hits theaters on Friday. My review for that will drop tomorrow around noon. Catch the Fair One, which it was an awards darling, or I should say film festival darling in the past couple of festivals, will hit limited theaters this Friday. And then The Sky is Everywhere will hit limited theaters in Apple TV Plus this Friday. Apple TV Plus coming off of their first Best Picture nomination with Coda today. That's exciting.
Is that really the first one? That's a lot. Well, they've been shit promoters before this, so
yeah, they really pushed Coda, which is great. All right, Sean, what's on your radar this weekend? What's like the top that you're gonna watch?
I mean, the easy ones to get are Kimi. I'll probably try to do Death of the Nile on Thursday. That'll be my Thursday movie. I will put a black light in my room. And then definitely Marry Me. I didn't know it was on Peacock as well. That makes it even better. It's like so if that one falls through, I didn't drop 12.
If anyway,
it's gonna be great. Come on, J Lo and Owen. That's amazing. J Lo and J Lo and
no, we're not doing that.
Clip.
No, we're not doing that.
J Lo and
We're not doing that. Sean, listen, have a great rest of the week, and we'll chat soon.
You too.
As always, thanks for listening. You can follow both Joe and Sean on Instagram at Guy at the Movies and Math Teacher Movies. New episodes of the Guy at the Movies podcast with Joe and Sean are available every Wednesday morning, wherever you get your podcasts. Also, be on the lookout for special spoiler pods, where we dive deep into the latest film releases. If you like what you hear, be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. See you next time.